We're so glad you're with us for this Shabbat Lech Lecha. We're going to begin our service on page 341, words inspired by Abraham's journey in this week's Parsha, page 341.
Note? No, I thought this was there it is. Shabbat Shalom and welcome.
Shabbat Shalom.
We have guests in the chapel this evening. They're the posters that are on the walls. They were provided to us by Hias. Raise your hand just if anybody in your family had contact with Hias as they were immigrants over the last 100 or 150 years of Hias's. It was called the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. I can raise my hand. Yeah, so they still exist. They don't call themselves the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, but they are an immigrant aid society. And so these pictures, these 8 pictures and posters are refugee stories. Hias has committed itself to helping refugees all around the world. And each of these are refugees that have been settled in this country. So they are our guests. And because this Torah portion, as Cantor Lutz said, is Lech Lecha, Abraham's told to become a refugee, if you will, and travel to a new land. Hias has designated this Shabbat Refugee Shabbat. So more about that later. That's why we began with the song that we did, the song of a journey, and we'll continue talking about what it is to be Jewish, what it is to think about the world's refugees, and what it is to act on their behalf. We continue on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem Leshalom, Malachei HaShalom. מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
I'd like to invite 3 generations of the Haynes and Reed families from, well, 4 generations. We're missing one, but you're right. We span 4 generations. From Sally to Rose to Lila are going to come forward to light the Shabbat candles. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
You may be seated. We continue with Lecha Dodi as we welcome Shabbat, page 20.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shem u'tiferet, v'litehillah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor hameracha. Merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola. Toch emunei am segula, boi chala. Boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Words of prayer on page 29. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless.
תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני. המעריב ורביב.
Page 33. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works, the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, amen.
Let's read on the top of page 39 together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promised land passes through the wilderness. There is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
ונאמר כי פד אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל
Ishkivenu is on page 42, and the interpretive readings are on the facing page 43. The bottom has a translation. Since we are thinking and talking about refugees this evening, I'd like to ask you, if you could, to think of, as we're singing and reading the words here, of what it would be like to sing this prayer in a place where you can't go to sleep at night, knowing that you'll be secure in the morning, and what it is to sing this prayer in a place where you can go to sleep, knowing that this becomes not necessarily an aspiration, but an affirmation of what you have. Never before have I read it this way, but reflecting on it through the eyes of Refugee Shabbat, I realize that in some ways it is a prayer of wanderers who yearn for home, wanderers who have found home. Have you ever done that before?
No.
First time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Did you like it, Ron?
I did, a lot, in fact. You like it? Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful.
We have, Cantor really built a space here where we take such pride in musical tradition and nusach, but also really using the works of new composers. So that's a new piece. And just a little bit of a plug, on November 9th, we're going to welcome Alana Arian, who's a new composer in our movement, and she's going to be here for Shabbat. And I really hope you can join either that Friday night at 6:15 on the 9th or with us 10 a.m. on the 10th here for our Shabbat morning service. She's going to be here bringing new music, and it's going to be really, really inspirational.
We continue on page 253. If there is someone close to you who is ill, we invite you to hold thoughts of them in your heart as we sing this prayer. With only a few exceptions, most of you are going to go home tonight. You're going to crawl into your bed, secure, knowing that when you get up tomorrow, you can look forward to another normal day. No one's chasing you out of your home. The United States is a safe place for Jews. There's no compelling reason to flee, because there's really no place else in the world where we would find a better home for ourselves. And unless you were born in Iran before 1978, or Ethiopia before 1976, or Russia before 1985, or a few other hot spots around the globe over the past couple of decades, chances are that you, like me, have gone to sleep every single night of your life knowing the very same thing. Sleep, wake, sleep, wake, sleep, wake, the same routine, waking up in the bed knowing it was a place where you could go to sleep that night. So I ask you to focus on Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. O God, cause us to lie down in peace and wake us up to life. We can sing those words because if we were wanderers, or if our ancestors were wanderers, we found a place to wake up in the morning to safety and security. So when we sing those words, they're more personal. When we sing those words, they're an affirmation of the security that we have. We don't have to worry about war and famine and evil forces that are banging at our doors. Of course, it hasn't always been that way for our people. My own grandparents slept their last peaceful night in Germany shortly before Kristallnacht. On that night, they left my father sleeping with an Aryan babysitter, and they wandered the streets of their town. And they watched the brown shirts break windows and burn books and torch synagogues. That restless night, they swore to each other that they would bring my father to the United States so that he could once again sleep through the night peacefully. My maternal grandparents, they did sleep relatively peacefully in Russia until endless pogroms and poverty and persecution kept them awake far too many nights. So they packed their family and they headed for the Golden Medina, they called it, right? Opportunity in America. When they gave birth to my grandfather, they knew that he could sleep each night, dreaming that he could do anything he wanted to be anything he wanted to be, do anything he wanted to do in his life. And in fact, he went to college, he became a dentist, and the rest is history. Here I am. That's our common story. We sleep peacefully in this country for the most part because our ancestors couldn't sleep in their original homelands. They came here, so we could. That's the Jewish story. And unless your 23andMe test shows that you have Native American blood, chances are you are a wanderer or the descendant of wanderers who found your way into this country. I'm told that mine is 90% Ashkenazi Jew. Surprise, right? But that story of refugees and wanderers, that's a story we've told since our inception as a people. And it's likely, of course, you have some familiarity with the biblical stories of immigration and wandering. I'm not going to go into detail. I talked about Abraham and Lech Lecha, this week's Torah portion. God said to him, Lech Lecha me'artzecha, leave your land. Leave your land. In other words, Abraham was born, or Abram, as he was called, was born in the land. And God said, leave your native land. Become a refugee. Life may be fine here in Ur, where you live, but check out Canaan if you really want to thrive. Wander to that strange land and reestablish your roots. And in that land, you'll become more than you'll ever be in your birthplace. That's a refugee dream, an immigrant story. And you know the story of the Israelite slaves, of course, where Moses said, run from your slavery. Get out from under the persecuting thumb of Pharaoh. Become refugees. Wander the barren wilderness. Cross borders, some friendly, some hostile. But in that new land, you'll become more than you would ever have become in your birthplace. So unless you're a biblical scholar, any biblical scholars out here? Good. Or you've studied with me. Anybody study with me? Some of you have. So I'm going to tell you something you may not know. The stories of Abraham's and Sarah's wanderings, the stories of the Exodus from Egypt, they were transformed from some original version into what we now read in the Torah. Centuries after the events that they describe were said to have occurred, they were taken and reworked by later editors. Scholars suggest that our ancestors living in Babylon in 586 BCE, 2,500 years ago, it's still a long time, after their temple and their holy city were destroyed, Jerusalem was destroyed, they were exiles, they were refugees, they were wanderers. They brought the stories, the original stories of Abraham and Sarah with them, the memories of Egyptian bondage, into exile. And there, in exile, they embellished the stories that were even ancient in their time. They elaborated on Abraham's journey from Ur. Where was Ur? Ancient Babylon, the very same spot where they now lodged. They retold their stories because in those stories they were able to embody their own hopes for a return to the land. They expanded the story of the slaves leaving Egypt. They imagined throngs leaving their place of exile, going to the land because they saw it as a foreshadowing of their own possibility of leaving Babylon and returning to the land of Israel, just like those slaves did. So those revised biblical tales, they became foreshadowings, precursor stories of those Babylonian exiles, and we know they were there, and their own wandering and their return to the land. They would one day realize the Torah's promise. They would one day sleep soundly back in their land. Now, the irony of that story and of the power of that story is they didn't all leave. In fact, it wasn't until 1978 that those Babylonian exiles who embellished those stories, who elaborated on those stories of refugees and wandering and return to a land, actually had to leave. 2,500 years after that. So here's the truth for our time. We now know that our ancestors edited the Torah to emphasize the story of refugees. They framed the Jewish story as one of exile, one of wandering, one of return. And it became an enduring theme in Jewish history. So it wasn't just the story we told, it became actually the prophetic vision of what we would become. Because whether they were created in that distant past, and experienced in the words of our Torah's authors, or lived in the memories of our own grandparents, or if you're an immigrant, in each one of you, we've always longed to sleep peacefully, to be able to say the Hashkivenu and wake up in the morning, l'shalom, to peace. So I ask you, given our history, can we be anything else but champions of the world's refugees today? There are 25 million forcibly displaced people in our world. Those are people who have been not just forced out of their homes, but out of their countries. Persecution, violence, poverty, despair has driven them from their homes. There are another 40 million who are internally displaced. They've been forced out of their homes, but they still live in their own countries. That's going on in Syria right now. So this week's Torah portion, Lech Lecha, which basically says, leave your homeland, is the portion that compels us to remember our refugee story. And that's why Hayes has designated this Shabbat as Refugee Shabbat. So Hayes, having settled Jews, and it's really kind of astounding to think of the reality of Jews in our world today, there's not a Jewish community presently in need of resettlement. They've decided to advocate for the safety of those millions of refugees, because we are a people who have a refugee narrative that's our eternal story. But here's the sad truth. Once, this country was a safe haven for millions. Now the quota has been further reduced from 50,000 to 45,000 immigrants a year. That's a bit more than 0.1% of our population. Now, just by comparison, Uganda has taken in 1.4 million people. That's 3% of its population. Germany, famously, and not without discord, has absorbed nearly 700,000 people. That's about 1% of Germany's population. And now we're told we don't even have room for 2,000 Guatemalans. Guatemalans who have been forced out of their homes by what? By violence, by poverty, by persecution, the same things that drove us out of our homes. Honduras has now been threatened with a cutoff of American aid if they so much as allow them to pass through. And we hear now, once again, the threat of family separations as a deterrent. Let's be clear. Most refugees are not criminals. Most refugees are victims of criminals. And like our own ancestors, they're seeking haven. They're seeking a place to sleep through the night. What will our nation's legacy be? How will we ensure that we who tell and retell the story of our own wanderings will not be complicit in the suffering of the world's displaced? There might be those in our own Jewish community, and there are, who endorse turning their backs on the world's refugees. But I want to be clear. When they do, they are also turning their backs on Judaism's central narrative. The narrative that we created, the narrative that we lived, and the empathy and compassion that that narrative demands of us. I will not turn my back on my people's story, and I urge you to stand with me and countless others who are appalled at our nation's failure to welcome the dispossessed of the world. We must raise our voices and our votes so that the U.S. implements humane immigration policies. We must offer our support to organizations around the world who help refugees. We must continue to shop that shipping container outside for the Syrian children. We shipped one last year, we're going to ship 2 this year. We already filled one of 59,000 items of clothing that was donated by a member of this congregation, and we're going to fill that one too. We must reject hate. We must refuse to surrender to complacency, refuse to succumb to cynicism, resist the proclivity to be fearful of the other, and reject the false narratives about the dangers posed by these people. They are us. And most importantly, we must proudly and loudly declare that we care and we will act because we are Jews and because the refugee story is our story. shared those words before the Amidah, give you a chance to read those words and contemplate them in some personal reflection, and because it was close to the Hashkivenu prayer, and it still resonates in our ears as we hear those words, and we're going to learn a new melody.
We learned this last week, one of Alana's melodies that we're going to sing with her when she joins us. A nice way to start the Amidah, page 46. Please rise and join us.
We continue individually through page 62. You may be seated when you're finished.
lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'ko ali.
It's all good. We continue on page 258 and 59 with prayers for Israel and the United States. Please join me. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have lived in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen.
Avinu shebashamayim, tzur Yisrael v'go'alo, barev et medinat Yisrael, reshit tzmichat ge'ulatenu.
Together, O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and your truth to all who lead and advise, guarding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Avinu shebashamayim, tzur Yisrael v'go'alo. Amen. Selah. Amen. Selah.
Mark Antis, how long ago was your bar mitzvah? Was it on this spot? How many years ago? 1987. So it was like, what's that? That's 31 years ago, is that right? Well, then come on up and do Kiddush. It's like sort of your anniversary.
What?
Not really. It's always your anniversary. But who could do Kiddush? I mean, well, somebody who had a bar mitzvah on this bima
We love Mark.
many decades ago. Mark is in charge of all the technology and is that right? And facilities of this place. And it makes our computers hum and run, and he's the one we complain to when they don't run. It's not even his fault, it's Microsoft's fault, but we yell at him anyway.
True.
It's true, right? So he deserves a little love and a little Kiddush. Page 5, please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvoto v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'yahorotzon hikilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit.
giving a little love, I can't resist the opportunity to announce that November 2nd, we're going to be giving Rabbi Stern a lot of love as we celebrate his 20th anniversary. So make sure you all join us for Shabbat that evening and sign up for the 20 different ways that we can show Ron how important Tikkun Olam and doing mitzvot is important to us, as it is his passion and his greatest contribution to this community.
Don't do it for me, though. Do it for God.
Do it for God, do it for cool. But do it for Ron too. And also I want to say that this Sunday is our very first Wise Women's Challah Bake. We have got an overwhelming amount of wonderful women joining us at 126. So if you haven't signed up, it's not too late.
Oh, no, it's not closed.
Join us as we break bread on Sunday.
Beautiful. Stay up here for the Aleinu since you're here. We're continuing on page 282 with the Aleinu. I'm not sure if all of you picked up one of our Eyes on Wise. It's had so many different names over the 20 years. I can't keep them all straight. It was Wise Weekly, it was Shabbat Bulletin, it was At Wise, it was... Anybody remember when the monthly bulletin was called the Amarim? Yeah, exactly.
What is that?
That was even... like Omer, like the speaking.
I see.
That was, I think that was even maybe just at the beginning of my time here. So anyway, it has just a listing of some things coming up in the next couple of weeks. We invite you to join us for all of these opportunities. If you like Friday night, you'll love Saturday morning, because Saturday morning lets you get so close to Torah. Small crowd, we study Torah, we go deeply into the portion and explore the different ways of understanding the portion. We are here every Saturday. One of us is here, some of us are here every Saturday. We welcome you. Happy to have you join us and ask questions and engage in Torah and some beautiful music. And what else is? Some food afterwards. Good stuff.
Bagels, always bagels.
Bagels, always bagels. And chocolate cake. There we go.
And Jones chocolate cake.
Jones chocolate. I also put these out on the table outside. They were provided by Hayes as part of their packet of information. Just some facts about the global refugee situation. So please pick them up as you leave so that we can be better informed of the situation of people around the world. We continue with the Kaddish on page 294. If you are in the first 30 days of mourning for a loved one, would you please rise? If you're in the first year of mourning for a loved one, would you please rise? Now, if you're observing the yahrzeit or the anniversary of the death of a loved one, please rise. And now we all stand beside you in support and solidarity as we recite the Kaddish and hold in our hearts the memories of those who have inspired us and allowed us to live our lives safely in this land. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbi.
Amen.
V'alma divarach utei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Balgala uvizman kariv imru
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'ramam v'nis. Tadar v'taleh v'talal shemei kodesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiran b'ama v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru
Amen.
amen. May the one who causes harmony on high, creates harmony on high, bring peace to us, to Israel, to all Israel and all the world, to which we say, Amen.
Amen.
There are a couple of Hebrew and Jewish songs that kind of everybody knows, regardless of your Hebrew aptitude, or at least you'll learn pretty soon. Oseh Shalom is a good one. We, of course, know the Shema, those 6 words. The other is Hine Ma Tov, right? You learn that in nursery school, and it just sticks. Hine Ma Tov u'mana'im shevet achim gam yachad. And if you didn't learn in nursery school, guaranteed after a few years around here, you'll learn it. It's on page 10, top of the page.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet